What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1985 Ford F-250 diesel. Up front is a 6.9 liter diesel V8, and down below is a 3-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this F-250 for two reasons. First of all, it's the IDI diesel, and we have a lot to talk about that. But the second reason is that this is one of the first diesel pickup trucks that were available on the market. Today, if you want big grunt and power, you get a diesel truck, but it wasn't always the case. Ford hasn't made diesel pickup trucks for regular consumers for really that long in the grand scheme of things. And so today, we're gonna dive into one of the early examples. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 6.9 liter IDI under the hood. Well, it is a diesel V8, and it was actually built by International Harvester. IDI stands for indirect injection. And so this engine has a really good story. In the 1970s, there was the oil crisis, which caused a huge crackdown on fuel economy and emission standards for vehicles. I have a whole video on my channel about it if you would like a deeper dive as to why it happened and what happened afterwards. But the long and short of it was that fuel economy was now going to become an issue for automakers. Now, for regular passenger cars, it started immediately in 1974, but trucks were basically given a little bit of leeway until the early 80s to sort of get their ducks in a row and figure out how to make these vehicles more efficient. That's why we got vehicles like the Dodge Lil Red Express was technically the fastest American car because trucks didn't have to have emission standards like cars did, so that had a big old V8 with no restrictions. Well, Ford knew about these restrictions coming up, so they reached out to International Harvester to help them develop a diesel engine that would retain a similar amount of power as their 460 engine, but be more efficient. Now, International had already started work on the 6.9 liter in the late 1970s. So it wasn't brand new for Ford, but Ford basically co-signed it, said, cool, that looks great, let's put it into our trucks. So that's what's here under the hood. Now, like I said, paired to it is a C6 3-speed automatic transmission. It's fine, it's doing the job. I more so prefer to drive the manual versions of these trucks. However, the automatic is fine here today. And last but not least, this is 4-wheel drive. However, you could find 2-wheel drive F-150s and 250s back in the era. How does it feel to drive the IDI diesel? Well, it actually drives really nice. It is low-end torque, and when you floor it, not a whole lot happens, but it does have the grunt to do the job. Here we go. That's it. That was floored. That was pinned. But that wasn't the point of the diesel. They wanted to keep their torque numbers up even while working around the cafe standards. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 5 gauges. Off to the left is my speedometer, and off to the right, I get my battery voltage, fuel, oil pressure, and coolant temperature. But then in the center, I get what would be a tachometer on nicer trim level trucks, but I guess I'm not worthy here today, so I don't get a tach. On the steering wheel, I don't get anything, but I do get a stalk that has my cruise control on it. This is the factory location for it, which is kind of unique. And off to the left, we do have a climate vent, headlight switches, and our windshield wipers. Moving on to the door, we do have smoker's windows as well as manual cranks for the windows, but that's it. And moving into the center, we get some warning lights, a panel, a aftermarket radio. However, this is a period correct aftermarket radio from the 1980s. And we get our climate control options. This was originally an AC truck. However, it has since been removed. But there is one really weird feature down here by the climate controls, and that's the front and rear gas tank. Fuel tank for diesel. That's right, it does have 2 fuel tanks, which was decently common on Ford pickup trucks in this era. However, in order to switch it, the button is integrated with the climate controls. Very weird. We also do get warning lights for glow plug, water and fuel, and engine temperature. Cool little lights down to the bottom right. Then we do have a little ashtray and our 4-wheel drive settings down on the floor, but we don't have any cup holders, so it fails automatically the big friggin' bottle test. Now, we do get a pretty nice bench seat. It's very bouncy, it's very comfortable, and I've enjoyed sitting in it. It will accommodate all body types, including my spherical shape, so I like that a lot. And there are no back seats. This was before the era of like king cabs and vehicles like that, so no back seats. However, we can talk about the bed. All right, around the back of the F-250 from 1985. Tailgate here, no soft opening or anything that we get on modern trucks. However, tons and tons of space. Unfortunately, no specific tie downs in the bed. Of course, we do get these sort of stuck in the bed rail whole thing tie downs, but nothing actually built into the sides like you see in modern trucks. However, I do want to point out one shooting car's Easter egg is this roll bar. You might have recognized it. All of these trucks have been owned by Ted, and he keeps putting the roll bar in the next truck that he picks up. So this is now the 4th review that this roll bar with these lights has been in. So very, very cool to see a welcome friend back again on the channel. I'm sure it will reach its 5th and 6th review at some point. But here's the rear bed space of the F-250 from 1985. Nothing spectacular, but very cool nevertheless. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and obviously this has a little bit of patina on it, but this is the earlier 80s generation of the F-Series truck. I've also driven the later half that had smaller headlights, a little bit more smoothed over right before the OBS, and I like it. I do genuinely like the look of these Ford trucks. However, once you get into the 70s and 80s, they all kind of mix together quite a bit. So here it is. Here's an 85 in case you were curious. However, with all of this being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving a 1985 Ford F-250 with the IDI diesel? Well, that's the main talking point, is the diesel engine. In terms of a truck as it is, these were basic appliances back in the 80s, no creature comforts, and they didn't treat you as such, and I like that about it. I do like sort of the hard knocks feeling that you get while driving an old square body pickup. There's no BS in here. There's no gimmicks. There's nothing to try to trick you. It's just straightforward, and I like that. But the IDI diesel, to me, is just such an interesting piece of automotive history, because this really is Ford's attempt at an answer to an upcoming problem. All manufacturers knew about these incoming CAFE standards applying to trucks. How do you make something shaped like a brick efficient? Well, they started to look into other engine options, and all throughout the 80s, we got weird vehicles with diesel options. We had Cadillacs that had diesel options. I recently drove a Cutlass Cruiser that had a diesel option. We didn't really know how to handle the new CAFE standards, and so we were just throwing anything we could at the wall, and we tried to see what stuck. And what ended up sticking was actually the diesel engines, because after this, in 1987, they swapped it out to the 7.3 liter. And then Navistar took over, and then we got the 7.3 liter Power Stroke in the more modern F-150s, F-250s, and F-350s. And then the diesel engines were a complete staple of the industry. Cummins ended up joining the race in 1989 and blowing everyone away with their 12-valve trucks. But we might not have gotten that if we never had the fuel crisis. We might not have gotten that if we never had the crackdown on CAFE standards. We might be driving around F-250s today in 2024 with 10.5 liter V8s that got 2 miles to the gallon and would burn an Olympic swimming pool worth of fuel just to get Krispy Kreme on a Sunday morning. That might have been the future that we were looking at, but now we have very, very efficient diesel engines. I had an F-350 King Ranch for a week, and that made 1,200 pound-feet of torque. It was an office on wheels. It was a command center on wheels. We might not have gotten that if the fuel crisis didn't happen and if Ford didn't make this agreement with International Harvester when they did. And so, if you're like me and you love looking at historical domino effects, then take a look at this 1985 F-250. This is the first of many dominoes to fall when it came to the diesel pickup. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Ted for letting me take out his IDI diesel F-250. What a wonderful guy. Ted has been a huge help to the channel. He's a good friend of mine, and I appreciate him very, very much. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.